Hello everyone and welcome along to the Six Nations preview. That's right, international rugby has been away for a number of months now since the Rugby World Cup took place in the months of September and October 2015. But come February the 6th, we are back in action. International rugby is back on the menu and we have 6 teams who have announced their squads over the last week or two. We're going to have a look through those, what my views are on the teams, where I think these sides will finish in the competition. It's going to be great to have international rugby back for us to watch, the first of 2016. So I'm going to kick things off here and start with who I think will finish last in the Six Nations for 2016, and unsurprisingly, I am going to go with the Italians. Now, despite the fact that Italy has possibly one of the channel's favourite sons in Sergio Parisse once again captaining the team, the squad just does not level up in terms of the strength, in terms of experience and players that are really going to make an impact on this competition. You can tell straight off the whistle that when you bring in 10 uncapped players into a 30-man squad, that there's definitely weaknesses of depth. They're missing a whole bunch of players through high injuries as well. We go through a few of them. Some of them still in the squad as well, like these first 3, George Biagi, Giulio Bisegni, and Kelly Haimona, the biggest, or possibly those 3 that are missing, will be missing in action for the first couple of rounds of the competition, although they are due to come back. One man that I think is going to be massive that they will be missing, as he is out injured as well, is Tommaso Allen. I think he is a great young prospect for the Italians, and being a game-controlling fly half is something they really need to keep hold of and build the team around him, because we know they've got decent forwards, the Italians. Not really where they lack is the backline, is the attacking, is the control that they need to improve on. We speak about 10 uncapped players. We're going to have a look at those guys now. Here they are, the first, the forwards that are uncapped in this team. Andrea Loviti, Matteo Zanusso, Ornel Liga, Andres Van Schalkwijk, Jacopo Sato, the younger brother, and Abraham Stein, the last of the forwards. So that is 6 new forwards into the Italian squad. And of course that leaves 4 players that are debuting or uncapped for the backline. They are Eduardo Padovani, Mattei Bellini, Tommaso Costello, and David Oriti. So that is a big amount of names that the Italians are going to have to bring into their team. I think, continuity, learning the international game, things like that is really going to speak something they'll learn a lot this season in the Six Nations competition. Can they keep up? I find it hard to think of. You've got to look at their strength, which will definitely be their front row and generally around their forward pack, but mainly that front row is where they will look to consolidate their side, look through the experience, especially Gardini, Castro Giovanni, Cittadini. They're your big 3 that will be in this Italian team. Your experienced players playing outside of Italy or the Italian clubs as well, from the Tigers, Racing, and Wasps. That is experience you cannot buy. And the rest of this team, apart from Sergio Parisse, are very much dependent on the Italian clubs. We've got a man from Exeter, which is Campagnaro as well. But it's that experience outside of the comfort zone that Italy will miss. I think their weakness, as I mentioned, Tommaso Allen, he's out missing. And I look at their fly halves, and they've got a man there, Canna, with 7 caps. And then, of course, Padovani is the other one, a debutant who is uncapped from Zebri as well. That could be a problem area that teams could target before the ball can even get out into the back line. But of course, that is what this time of the year is for. That is what post-World Cup is all about. You go after the World Cup, people retire, people move away, the team changes, the mold changes, and then you just have to restart, and we take very much the trend throughout this whole Six Nations team announcement is that indeed. There is uncapped players from here to the other side of the world. So Italy, they're not the only one in this boat, but I think they will struggle to get players at that level of international quality right off the bat. So I've picked the Italians to come in 6th position, but my pick for 5th And I think, sadly, will it be the French? Now, obviously, being from New Zealand myself, France is that old rival that you just don't know what's going to happen with them. They've got so many quality players. They just don't seem to perform at the top of their game. Some people blame the club competition at home. Other people just blame the level of competition in the international side. Whatever it is, they need to really fix it. I think last season, World Cup-wise, they had a bit of a shocking year. They got into the playoffs and they got absolutely thrashed by the All Blacks. But I think when you look through this French side, it could be bad things for them. Already they've missed out with Benjamin Fall making way out of the team. Marvin O'Connor coming in as injury replacement. He is the 8th uncapped player in this side. And when you're looking at who they've dropped or missed out on the selection for this team, got Bastareaud, Cockett not making it, Tillesport, and Nakatasi. I mean, there's 4 players of international experience, but again, we go back to the point of this is the time to rebuild. Find that superstar for 4 years' time. There's a hell of a lot of rugby to go before we look at 2019 Rugby World Cup. But I thought Noel Nakatasi, a great player for the French. Just, where's he been? He's just not been that attacking massive player that they probably hoped that he would be. Bastareaud, I mean, what's a French side without Bastareaud in it? That's questions there. Tillesport, one they picked up just last season as well in 2015, yet already he's been put aside and a number of players have come into the place. So apart from O'Connor, there are 7 more uncapped players into this team, and we'll have a look at those now. The 7 coming in are Virumi Vakatawa, Camille Chat, Jefferson Poirot, Jacobu Kamara, Kevin Gordon, Paul Jadratsak, Sebastian Beasy, and of course, last but not least, Jonathan Dante. So a lot of new names again in this French side, 8 altogether when you count in O'Connor. So there's plenty of new names. Now the French side, they have recalled one player who is familiar, and that is Jean-Marc Desson. He has been classed as a fly half in some media publications, where they're going to cover him as a scrum half as well. When they've already got 3, I think Desson will play a bit of time at the number 10 jumper when you got Beasy, Machino and Parra already there to take that number 9 jumper. I think for the French, their strength is going to be at number 8. When you've got 2 in the squad, Louis Picamoles and Damien Sholey, 2 very, very good number 8s for the French. Other areas that they may struggle, I think, is very close to where they're strong, and that'll be on the open side of the back row. Now, I think blindside, they'll find someone who can fit there, or even they'll use Sholey in that position. But open side, they're replacing a French legend of Dusautoir. Can they find someone who will do that job? 2 uncapped players, another one there, Bourbon, with just 3 caps to his name from Stade Francais. He's got to be one of those 3 or 4. With Laurent there as well. They're missing the likes of Leroux, who was a very capable number 7 as well. How much will they miss him out of that squad? But for me, the success of this French season is going to come down to their back row. The open side flanker, can he step up? And will the number 8 be enough to carry them? That's where they're going to have to look to really attack sides through the back of the scrum. Okay, so I've got France coming in 5th position. It'll be an absolute abysmal season for the French as well. But I think my 4th spot is a team that has really shown over the last 6 months that they really are a team on the rise, and that is Scotland. It is a bit of a toss-up between those 2, but I've really liked what I've seen from the Scots in recent time. Really performed exceptionally well over the Rugby World Cup. So the Scottish squad is quite an interesting one as well. They've gone with a team made of the core of what they sent to the Rugby World Cup, with 23 coming from that same squad retained for the Six Nations tournament. 5 of those are out injured as well, which means really only a couple of players have been dropped. We have a lot of players recalled back into this team, the likes of Adam Ash, John Barkley, Chris Rosario, Rodri Jackson, to name just a few. But it is in the forwards where we look at the Scottish side here, and 4 changes in the front row, 2 of them being uncapped props. Ferguson and Sutherland making their way into the team for the first time. Also, Lowe and MacArthur returning to the front row squad for the Scots. So it is keeping that core, of course, together. They're missing out on Strokosch as well, who was retired from international duty. But I think what would really struggle with this Scottish side is going to be the experience in that forward pack especially. Now, they've got a lot of guys in their team, as we mentioned, who are injured as well, when you've got the likes of Fraser Brown, Grant Gilchrist, Henry Pyrgos, and John Welsh, Richie Fernan, another one as well, that will miss partial parts of this tournament as well. But I think with those guys back, it will somehow fix their problem. But early stages of the tournament, I think that experience is definitely going to be their Achilles heel for the Scots. If they can really pick it up and they can find some superstars and some diamonds here in the Scottish side, they could find themselves going quite well from what they can get underway before these players return back. I think their strength is going to be in the centre pairing. Now, I'm really excited when I look through and see the likes of Mark Bennett in the centres there. Duncan Taylor, another one who really looks like he's got the goods at international level. Of course, Scotland out wide, very, very well endowed when it comes to quality. Sean Lamont, Sean Maitland, Tommy Seymour, Tim Visser, four very, very good wingers. And of course, Finn Russell as well, another who is a spectacular young talent. I like the Scotland team. There's a lot of youth. There's quite a bit of experience despite that as well, with the likes of the forwards. You're going to look to the Gray brothers are going to be so key to how this team reacts and how this team performs. Ross Ford up the front as well is going to be key as he looks to possibly pick up his 100th cap. The first man after Sean Lamont at the Rugby World Cup could possibly be to do so. So that's Scotland. I think they'll go pretty well and they'll come in nicely in 4th position. Alright, so we're getting into the interesting part now of the video. This is the top 3 sides from what I think will be this Six Nations in number 3. And this one is going to be huge as well. I am picking England to come in 3rd position. Now, England, new coach, new look, new attitude. But can it be new results? In my opinion, no. I think not much is going to change in the Six Nations for the English. I think long term, things will definitely be on the improve for them. But when you look at what's happened here right from the outset, Dylan Hartley, captain of England. Second hooker in the squad, Jamie George. We got issues. We need to talk. Now, this is a problem here. Straight away, you got conflicting interests instantly off the team. As soon as you name your captain, you're naming a problem. Is Dylan Hartley the best man for the captaincy? But is he the best hooker in England? Now, that by itself is very much a contentious argument as well when you got the likes of Tom Youngs, who has been left out of the team altogether. Another man who's been brought back is Chris Ashton, only to get banned for 10 weeks. So what on earth is going on with that? Ashton finally makes his way back, but a terrible eye gouging incident. Oh, just, you know, the luck of the man. Is he the best winger? I know people either love Chris Ashton or they absolutely hate him. He's back in the team, but you won't see him at all. The English have picked up 7 uncapped players, and when you look at who they've left out, first things first, no Tom Youngs, as I mentioned, no Cipriani, no Jeff Parling, no Brad Barrett, no Tom Wood, Richard Wigglesworth, David Wilson, Ben Morgan, Luther Burrell, Rob Webber, and of course injured players, Kieran Brooks, Manu Tuilangi, Henry Slade. There's a whole host of big-name players that England have left out, of course, coming into the team, players who were there before the Rugby World Cup. Cowan Dickey, a man who I thought was really absolutely horribly left out big time by his teammates. Hard to explain exactly, but I really don't feel he got the best opportunity to represent his abilities and talents in an English jumper. And another name I'd like to mention who's been brought in as well, Marland Yard. Now this man, he's almost an enigma that just keeps coming back and just seems ageless. Can he again find his way at English level? Can he again lead the wing and do something special for his country? Marland Yard, only 7 caps, and he is only 23. So very much a one for the future for the English. And speaking of ones for the future, we'll have a look at the 7 uncapped players who are coming into the side Ollie Devoto, Sam Hill, Paul Hill, Maro Itoje. Now, here we go. This is the first one I wanted to stop on because people have been calling for Itoje to be in this English squad for at least a season, if not longer. For a lot of media, a lot of people's thoughts and opinions have been about this man being an answer for the future of the English team. Jack Clifford, another one who's been in and around the English scene for quite a while, but still yet to be kept. Josh Beaumont, yet again, another one who's been around the scene for 2015, and of course the last one on the list here, Elliot Daly. Now, Elliot Daly was touted to be a great English player a few years ago when he appeared uncapped. As always, in the Barbarian side, there's always that one uncapped player. He was it that year, and I always remember vividly about the impact on World Rugby that Elliot Daly would have in his future. Does it start now? Does it begin now for the Englishman? It's all up in the air. Let's see how he goes. It'll be very, very interesting. But although it's nice to see all these new faces and these people and players that have been bandied about for quite some time about how good they could be and will be, it's good to see them finally break into the team, and it's something that Ireland have managed to not dig themselves into about picking the young talent too early. We'll cover them more in a second, though. They are one of the two sides still remaining to be picked in my top 6 of the Six Nations. Of course, not going to be 7, is there? So, for England, I think their strength is going to be the second row. When you got players like George Kruis, Joe Launchbury, and Courtney Lawes. I mean, Launchbury and Lawes are just two of the best second rows going around. You take out the Retallick and Whitelock kind of thing, and second up, you look at Launchbury and Lawes. Lawes has been in great form too recently, and they're still very young, 24 and 26 between the two of them, and then Kruis in the middle is 25. Plenty of caps as well going for those two. I think their defensive prowess, their impact on the game is going to be key to the physicality of this English pack as much as the overall ability of this team going forward. Other names that have appeared back in this team, Marco Vunipola has been left out in the rain for quite some time as well, but he is back in the team. Matt Kivcic is another one who's been very much around and in and out of this English side. Chris Robshaw still remains in the squad, of course, the former captain no longer, but I think they could improve his game. But will we see him more playing on the blind side, or will he stay on the open side with players like Kivcic in the team already? Of course, for every strength there needs to be a weakness, and I think I'm going to pin that on the centres for England. When you look at the 4 named centres they have, only Jonathan Joseph actually has caps to his name. That's just 16. Do they go back to playing a player like Anthony Watson in the centre pairing when they're without the likes of Henry Slade to fit into that 12 jumper? Would they even play a Farrell with a Ford at 10 and 12 between those two? The possibilities are there, but do they risk it and throw a man like Daly or Devoto or Sam Hill even into the mix and throw him into the cauldron of Test rugby for a debut match? So overall for England, I think if they can finish up third, should be pretty happy with how they go. I think they'll threaten, but I think when it comes to crunch time, big games against big teams, they may struggle to put those finishing touches on, but we will soon see in the month of February. Right, we're down to the last 2. This is it, number 2 and number 1. So, coming in second position, the suspense, Ireland. Okay, so I can already hear the collective sighs or relief or anguish for all you guys out there that are Irish fans. I mean, 2-time champions. Are they going to do it for a third? My pick is no. They're going to finish second. And really, my reasonings will follow. They'll follow. Don't worry. There is good reasons as well. So the Irish side, here it is, as selected as well. But the problem with Ireland this season, I think, is going to be the injury toll. A lot of players are missing or will be missing for the early portion of this tournament. And when you look at the fixtures list for the Irish as well, when they're going to be missing key men, we'll have a look at the key men first. They'll be missing the likes of Dan Tui, O'Mahony, Mike Ross, Ken Healy, Chris Henry as well. They are key players that will be out for possibly the first 2 or 3 games. The likes of O'Mahony and Tui are going to be out for the whole tournament as well. So just that impact when they've got their fixtures coming up. First up, they have Wales. Now that is going to be monumental. Second game, they have the French. Now that is something they could target, but the French, who knows, they could really find some gem of players in all those debutants they have as well. So they'll follow that up with a match against England for their third game. Now there we go. Wales, France, England. The possibilities of Ireland losing a couple of those games is pretty real, and it's something that I think with those key men out early on could come back to haunt them in future as well. They have already had to make one replacement player, with Marty Moore missing out with injury, and they've pulled in Finlay Bealham to take his place. Rory Best has been named the captain in the absence, of course, of Paul O'Connell, who was retiring after the Rugby World Cup. So plenty of new men coming into this Irish team as well. 4 uncapped players. CJ Stander, who has just got his residency to play for Ireland. Stuart McCloskey. Now this is a man who I think is worthy to talk about. A lot has been talked about the possibilities of what he can do in the midfield. A very strong running player. Utain Delan will be number 3, and Josh van der Flier will be the 4th and final new uncapped player to this Irish team. Now they're going to have to really pick it up. I think CJ Stander is definitely up to international level. We've seen him around for a number of years. The 25-year-old, big number 8 as well. He can do some damage. He's got great support of Heaslip as well. The pressure will come on the others in the back row and the second row to make an impact. But I think the support is there for the Irish as well. The weakness for their squad, I think, will be in the back row. Now, they've got a couple of key players who are going to need to play every second of every match for them if they're going to play well. That is Jamie Heaslip, of course, and Sean O'Brien. But when you look at the other players who are covering the other flanker positions, Tommy O'Donnell, Rhys Ruddock, Van der Fly's there, as well as CJ Stander, the depth is not very good. I mean, Sean O'Brien will play 6 or 7 where he really needs to play, but you're going to have to play one of these new players with under 10 caps or even on debut for this matchup. These 6 Nations matchups are going to be massive. I think that could be their weakness. Where they need to look if they want to win, their key position is going to be the number 10 jumper. It's just, there's no other man that can impact this Irish team quite like Jonathan Sexton. He is the key. He's the key to Ireland, and he could unlock a great season for them if he had a great year like he did last year or the year before when they took the trophy. He needs to look wide as well. He needs to look to the likes of Robbie Henshaw, Keith Earls, Luke Fitzgerald, Dave Carney, Simon Zebo, Andrew Trimble, even Rob Carney at the back. Very good players, I think, in the centres and in the back line that could make a real impact on this team if they can get Sexton clicking. Madigan, a very, very good backup as well. Take nothing away from Ian Madigan, but Sexton is going to be just that massive key. So that leaves just one team remaining, and my number 1 for the 2016 Six Nations will be Wales. Now, once again, good reasons to follow why I think they will top the ladder as well. But first off, let's have a look at who is in and, of course, out of the team. The likes of James Hook is gone. I mean, why was he even in the team? It was because of massive amount of injuries as well that he even got a shot back in the Welsh side. I think most people have forgotten about what James Hook can do. Lee Halfpenny, of course, a big name that will be missing. Rhys Webb and Scott Williams all injured as well. Missing out on the team. Rhys Webb, unlucky. He has been, of course, replaced by a new debutant. The only debutant in this big Welsh squad. So there is big clue number 1 as to why I've picked Wales to be my Six Nations champions. Coming into the team, Jonathan Davies. Huge. I mean, huge to bring him back. Tom James and Josh Turnbull as well are the others coming into the side. There is still a few injury concerns with this sort of side. That's why it is a lot bigger. They have named a few extra players than the other teams, up to a 37-man squad Gatland has named for the side. So that could be an issue if they don't iron those out pretty quickly. But there is a couple of big questions that will ultimately decide whether Wales take this top position. The main one, the big one, the ultimate one is going to be 9 and 10. The question is, can Gareth Davies and Dan Biggar recover and discover and reunite that form that they had at the Rugby World Cup? In my opinion, they were the best 9 and 10 in the tournament. I think they were fantastic together. Gareth Davies really glued together the forwards to the back. It's such a good job of that. And of course, well, I don't even need to say anything about Dan Biggar. And if you're watching this video, you're a rugby fan of some level, you'll know the amazing abilities displayed at the Rugby World Cup. If he can rediscover that form, that kicking form, that running form, that controlling form, Wales could have a great year. The other thing about Wales that I really like is the depth. You know, they've got players who are experienced on all kinds of levels. You've got the big men, like Githin Jenkins, 119 caps, 35 years old. He's just a monster. He is just a machine. There's plenty of players we've seen in a Welsh jersey for years. You know, Samson Lee has been, I think, a real up-and-comer for this Welsh squad in the front row, but he's just got 17 caps. There's plenty of men here that have a huge amount of caps. You know, Paul James, Luke Charteris, Brad Davies, Alan Wynne-Jones, you're naming all these players, Dan Lydiard, Justin Tipperick, Sam Warburton, Toby Faletau. These are all big game players that are experienced. This is your starting 15 that no one else can match for ability, discovered ability, I'll say at least, and for experience. Into the backs, we've got the players. Gareth Davies only played 9 caps and he had a phenomenal World Cup. Can he repeat that? He's the inexperienced one. Of course, Lloyd Williams is the experienced scrum half. Can he reclaim that number 9 jumper? Dan Biggar and Reece Priestland, the fly halves, both of 39 and 40 caps. Big players. Jonathan Davies, huge to have him back with Jamie Roberts. They're big on caps as well. You got Alex Cuthbert, George North, Matthew Morgan, who's going to be a future stunning player as well, as the word goes out correctly. I've seen him in some clips. He looks fantastic. And of course, Liam Williams at the back. He'll be the starting fullback. One man, Gareth Anscombe, from a New Zealand perspective. I'm interested to see if he can step up to international duty as well. If he gets a shot, very versatile player, a very solid player. But is he good enough for international rugby to make an impact when you have big names here already for the Welsh? So overall, this is the only squad I've really gone completely over here. And I think it's a very young squad that is very experienced for their age and for this time of the year as well, for this time of the World Cup cycle is a better way to say it, where everyone is throwing all these new players into their teams, where Wales have said, well, we're going to throw new players in, but we've already capped these guys. We know what they offer, and we know how they're developing because we've been watching, we've been building this core group who have been capped. They know how to play international rugby, and they just need to build the experience, which is going to be massive. One uncapped player, the only team to name such a minimal amount as well. So that's their strength for me, is their experience. Simply put, their experience and a 9 and 10 that combines and plays well together, I think will be key if they do it. So a big if on that one, but experience overall, I think, is going to be their massive strength. Their weakness, well, again, like we saw at the Rugby World Cup, injuries. Simply injuries. If they can stay fairly injury-free, I think they'll have a good season. If they go like they did at the Rugby World Cup, it's going to make them struggle again. If they have to call up every single Welshman under the sun to come and play for their country, I'm sure they'll be very keen to, but it will, of course, weaken the quality of player and could be detrimental to their chances as well going into the tournament. But, what's going to happen? It's a fairly long tournament given that what can change. It is spread out over weeks. There's gaps, of course, as everyone knows. But opening weekend, big game. Ireland versus Wales. That's going to be huge. And Scotland versus England, for that matter. France versus Italy. At Stade de France is the opening match of the tournament. What an opening weekend that's going to be. France take on Ireland in the second. Wales, Scotland, Italy versus England for the second weekend. I mean, it's going to be a fantastic tournament. I cannot wait. A lot of you guys I know out there are itching to get back into international rugby. So let me know your thoughts on the teams. Let me know your 1 to 6 and who you think will take out these 6 nations for 2016. I hope you've enjoyed this little look with my opinions, of course, which are mine alone and are not factual in any which way whatsoever. The numbers and the players, of course, are factual. These are the squads that have been named at this point. Of course, injuries, they change as they already have. A couple of squads missing and adding a couple of players already. But let me know your opinions as well. This is what these pieces are all about. Conversation, a bit of debate is who you think is the best side in the Six Nations. We will find out in February. Hope to see all you about for some match action as well and some reviews of the games and each weekend going by. What the ruck happened. Coming back for Six Nations action in 2016. Thank you all for tuning and watching. Hope you have all enjoyed. Hit that thumbs up if you'd like to see more of this kind of thing coming out of this channel. It is very fun to do. It's great to be involved in watching and getting to know the Northern Hemisphere rugby side of things. So until next time, take care.